Hi, I'm Danny Black, and welcome to the @SportsBalt podcast. On this podcast, I will be talking sports cards, collectibles, memorabilia. I'll be interviewing hobby guests. I will be talking about my own thoughts. I'll cover regular sports that relate to the hobby. That's the fun part. More importantly, I want you along for the ride. So click like and follow for more content, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Well, hello on a beautiful afternoon here in Baltimore. I'm Danny Black, and welcome to another episode of Sports Balt. Today's episode's a little bit different. I'm going to fanboy on a product a little bit today. I guess it's been almost a year now since I first reached out to a company called Center Stage, and I met John Wee, and I had a unique experience where I had a whole bunch of cards, and my daughter's summer responsibility was to get a job. And needless to say, being a teenager, she procrastinated, never got the job. School lets out, time to work for dad. So she basically, her job was to catalog, comp thousands of cards. I mean, I just paid her all day. She said to me at one point, she goes, "Dad, there's got to be an app that's better than this." I said, "There's not. You're gonna have to do the work." So we went through. We I did go to the app store with her, and we looked and tried several, but she's not a sports fan. She's not a card fan, so it wasn't quite as intuitive. And then we came across this app called Center Stage. And long story short, I think she scanned, I want to say, 10,000, some ridiculous number of cards in a matter of days. Priced, it saved everything. It was unbelievable. And I started as a dealer in the early 90s, 30 years ago, with the Beckett magazine. And you talk about arrow up, arrow down. So this for me was an eye-opening experience. I know to stay uh, quick with the industry and stay on top of stuff that I need to expose myself to different products. And I do try to do that. So I tried Center Stage, and I immediately reached out to John and said, I want to be a part of this. So I have John Wee here today, and we are going to talk about his collecting, and we're going to talk about Center Stage. I do want to disclose that I am actually an advisor in an official capacity with them now, which I could not be happier. All started with that phone call. So all that being said, let's bring in my friend John. John, welcome. How you doing?
Hey Danny, yeah, doing well. Thanks for having me.
No, always good to see you again. Do you remember that first time I sat down with my daughter next to me and said to you, you got something here? Because this girl to my left, she just used it for days very successfully.
Yeah, definitely. I vividly remember that. It was a great call. I think those are one of the most encouraging parts of kind of this whole journey so far. Just hearing fans of the app who have saved so much time in their journey in terms of their hobby and collecting. Um, yeah, it was awesome. And then also meeting you and your entire family at the national last year as well. So I can't wait for this year's national coming up.
Well, they say the hobby's close, and I think this is a perfect example. Not just business, but being able to meet each other's family and friends. And my son has become your Pokemon. I think your biggest fan of Pokemon, and from day one, I think he's been more aggressive than I've been, probably telling you what to do with the trading card game. So he's loving it as well. But I'm not just going to talk about Center Stage and all the things that I enjoy about it, but I want to talk about actually how I use it. And then I want you to talk about some of the features and goals. I work as a private broker. I buy and sell. I have my own collection. And oftentimes I have to go to people's houses and quickly go through a collection and get an idea of what I'm looking at. I've been able to use Center Stage as an application there too when I have to go through a collection and don't want to sit there and spend a lot of time comping out. And then also for my own collection, I'm working on the 57 top set, and I'm going to collect the whole set one way or the other. But I still like to go through and make sure I'm getting a deal. So if I'm going through a dollar bin or trying to complete the set, a lot of times I very easily find out that the store I'm at hasn't updated their vintage pricing recently, and I'm getting a great deal on a card. And I actually used the app and I bought out my local card shop's complete 1957 tops, commons, and singles. So I realized I was getting a good deal. But I am guessing when you started that me buying 57 tops was not the original idea. So fill in for the people that are not familiar with the app, kind of what the goal was at the beginning, where you guys are, and the highlights.
Ultimately, we wanted to solve problems in the hobby. One thing about getting back into collecting, I got back into collecting right after Kobe Bryant's passing, which I think we're coming up on a 2-year anniversary in about 9 days, or no, yeah, about 8 days. But one thing is that I started collecting more and more cards. I started buying more wax, and just how tedious everything was, right? So, we just wanted to enable people to just be able to scan a card with their camera on their phone and just have a quick indication of how much the cards are worth. One thing that we don't do is present any sort of averages or estimations. That's not our place. We just wanted to replicate what people were doing by, going to eBay or 130 Point and just solving that problem first and foremost. And then we kind of added that next layer of being able to track one's collection to just kind of ease that sort of pain point of having separate Excel spreadsheets like I used to have back then. I think in terms of our future goal, we really want to become the main digital hub of the entire hobby, or the center stage of the hobby. As cliche as that sounds, we want people to be able to index their entire collections, have friends on the app and view each other's collections, eventually start buying, selling, and trading through the app, as well as just kind of showing things off. So with the way the hobby is kind of spread out across Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, just all these different platforms, we really want to be able to kind of provide that in a really kind of user core, collector focused app. And we're close to doing that, right? We're close to 300,000 users at this point. We see about 32 to 35 million search events per month. So we're doing really well in terms of getting traction. But we wanted to gain the user's trust by just being a source of information first. And we want to start kind of adding all these features and kind of going with what feedback that we get. We just want to stay true to the collectors and make sure that the hobby kind of appreciates what we're doing. And, we're not necessarily trying to siphon money off of collectors' backs right away, right? So not
Well,
ever, yeah.
you mentioned gaining the collector's trust, and I believe one of the biggest ways to do that is transparency.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of so I'm just going to be transparent for a while. There's a lot of apps that are out there trying to come up with a way to price cards. There's a lot of websites that are trying to come up with a way to price cards, and they're all trying to basically remove the similar pain points. Um, the Center Stage app, first of all, uses a scanning. You just hold the phone over the app. You don't even have to press the button, and it'll bring up different pictures. Now, when you go to eBay and you enter in search terms,
Mhm.
your results are only as good as what you enter, and they're only as good as what the listing had in the search. And that's true if you use 130 Point. That's true if you use eBay. One of the things on Center Stage is you also can't change the way people write their listings on eBay. So one of the things, just for transparency, one of the challenges is always understanding how to use the app. One of the things that I find on the app, and I get this feedback all the time, is I get multiple screens of the same card, and I want to be transparent about that. A lot of times you're just looking at different versions of the same card that were listed with different keywords that came up differently. It may be somebody had a graded version, somebody had a raw version, somebody used a refractor or a number, somebody else didn't put that in there and only put short print or whatever it is. So you're going to find different listings. But to me, the pain point that's removed is all that separate typing and retyping and re-entering to find all the different variations that might have been done. And a perfect example is I was doing a deal with a young gentleman in his teens who was very confident about his prices and comps because he used 130 Point, and we were dealing with Ronald Acuna. I apologize on my pronunciation, on Ronald Acuna, and the issue came down to, in 130 Point, whether or not you put in junior or you didn't put in junior, and we were looking at a card, and he's quoting me certain comps, and I said, well, go ahead and change the way you enter that, and all of a sudden you got all these different comps. And then I pulled out Center Stage and I just went over the card, and we were able to see kind of everything in one place, in a fraction of the time. So that's an application for me in real time. But I want to be transparent about how to use the product the most efficiently, because I would rather have different options to look at in a quick manner, where I can click on a link to eBay to see the original listing, especially if I'm buying. And I'll be honest, I buy vintage raw. This card is in terrible shape, but when I go on and I see, the versions that are on there that people have listed, they've listed some in my condition. I don't want to see the PSA 4 because my card's not a PSA 4. So I can see that raw eBay listing, which is more relevant. So I want to clear that up, number one, because I have that conversation a lot. Number two, and I think this is so crucial, this is a tool. You guys offer link throughs to click. You offer a lot of grading options, and I know that's going to be expanding. Use this as a tool in your belt. Like you said, you're not giving predictive pricing. You're not saying to buy or sell. You're saying here's a better way to get information in a quicker, more efficient manner. For the sake of transparency, am I accurate in all this?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, to start off with your first point, around the duplicates, I'll just start kind of explaining why that happens. We use very cutting edge at AI, right? So when the camera sees the card in different lighting conditions or angles or different lighting environments in general, sometimes the AI doesn't have the confidence level to just combine these cards necessarily. So we have a tremendous team that's kind of going through all these and making sure they're merging all the correct ones. And every now and then there are a few stragglers. So we encourage users to swipe through the results to find the most recent transactions with prices that are indicated in blue, because they can click on those transactions to open that corresponding transaction on sites like eBay. But yeah, I mean, that's what we're hoping. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and to your point, I can still do that faster than I can 130.6 variations of the card.
Yeah, of course, of course. And I think one thing about the input output aspect of it that you mentioned is like, one thing that I realized very early on is that if you type in auto instead of autograph, you're going to get a whole different set of
It's a great.
results, right? So there are a lot of pain points with doing manual text and typing, but sometimes people just want to kind of stay with that as just kind of what they're used to.
Well,
Right?
but that's going to evolve. I'm not worried about people that don't want to use it now. I'm worried about the people that are going to have to adapt eventually, because no site's going to use manual entry as their primary form eventually. That's not just in the hobby. I think you're gonna have that in the world. But for me, I use folders a little bit differently, and I want to give you a different angle to putting stuff in folders. I list stuff on eBay. A lot of times I need to sit there and just go through a pile. I need to kind of quick comp and get an idea and figure out what I'm putting on eBay. But I actually save the cards I want to list into a folder. And then when I go to do my eBay listing, I actually can use that blue link through, go right to eBay and click sell similar. So
Hmm.
my listing time and my organization of listing has gotten easier, because I'm removing that pain point I had on eBay, as a lister. So I just wanted to let you know that that's a way that I found the folders to be efficient, is managing kind of the business side, not even just the collector side, which I use also. So that's something else for people out there. If you want to mess around, it's a great way to use the tools. And I've moved stuff into folders for stuff I'm negotiating, or my trade, and it just gives me a quick glance. So let's talk about your collecting background. I don't think it's a secret for anybody who's watching this on YouTube, and if you're not, and you're listening to the audio version. John's background, how shall we say this, is very much a winning time. Talk to me about your Lakers setup, your fandom, and kind of who your teams are and who your guys are.
A lot of people thought I was a Lakers fan. I was, for 20 years, right? But I was mainly a Kobe Bryant fan. I had a chance to meet him when I was 15 years old, right on his 20th birthday weekend when he visited Korea. And yeah, I met him at the airport. I, asked if I could be his translator. He actually said he already had one, but he invited to meet him at the Ritz Carlton the next morning at 8 a.m. And I did so, and I kind of just toured around with him in Seoul, in Korea, for 3 days, and spent a bunch of time with him and his family, his mom, his dad, and his cousin, who now coaches at, I think, Sal. But after that point, I started collecting more and more of his cards. I was obsessed with his Topps Finest rookie. That was my favorite card growing up. And I kept collecting a little bit until Tim Duncan rookie year, and then I went to college a little bit after that. Stopped collecting for a long time, and then after his passing, my instinct was to just go to eBay and just buy as many cards of his as I could. So that pretty much kind of brought me back into the hobby ultimately. And then I started kind of falling in love with some of the newer players, like the Lukas and the Treys and the Zions and the Jaws, and I just fell back in love with collecting. And at this point, not having to save up my lunch money to just buy one single pack per week, being able to buy a box or two. I never bought a single case of a product, but buying into breaks, it was a ton of fun, right? So I just fell back in love with the hobby. All the new technology in the cards, just the different patch autos and everything like that. It was just a lot of fun just going through that learning curve. And yeah, here I am with my background. I have a closet full of these monster boxes that are right here. Yeah, I'm a big card nerd now, so yeah, very happy with it.
Well, you wouldn't be on here if you weren't a card nerd. That was going to be the alternate title of my podcast, was Card Nerd, but I figure enough people know I'm a nerd. So I love geeking out with you on the data. I love talking data in general. I think data can be manipulated. Um, but I don't think Center Stage is ultimately just a data company. Like you said, there's a community you're trying to build, but I think people you need to feel comfortable using the product and using it together. And what I've found is when I'm trying to negotiate a deal, if somebody doesn't know the app you're using, and this is probably across the board, actually, I've had this across the board. If you're talking to somebody about a deal and they prefer one app and I prefer another app or whatever it is, it's sometimes hard to get that deal done. I would say in general, and just kind of as advice to people, if you're using Center Stage or somebody else's and you're doing a deal, feel free to expose each other to it, just so you can get on the same page for a deal. It's always really difficult when you're comparing two different data sources to get consistent information. So I've just found that's just a real quick thing. And when somebody sees it very quickly, you can get on the same page because you're seeing the physical card. And that's the other thing is typically there's going to be a picture and so you can make sure you have the right card. And that's, to me, is actually one of the most helpful things to make sure I'm looking at the right listing or the right card is I can actually match it up to the card in my hand. And that's a very cool feature where other sites, a lot of times I have to guess on the name of the refractor or what it might be. And without a checklist, it gets very challenging. So that's kind of the old man in me. I know we're about the same age, but you're much hipper, cooler, and into modern basketball, and actually can still play basketball without 3 days of recovery. So, are you mostly modern basketball at this point? Am I right about that in your collecting?
Yeah, mostly. I collect a little bit of baseball here and there. I'll buy the flagship Top Series in baseball, but also my a close friend of mine used to play for the Tampa Bay Rays, and now he just joined the Pirates through a trade. So I collect his cards. I have all his cards like right up here, including his game used bat and his game used glove and everything like that. So I collect a little bit of everything. I've bought some football just because it was available, but I'm not too big of a football fan. But yeah, mostly basketball is right.
So G-Man Choi is legitimately a friend of yours. This is not a pump and dump on my podcast, right?
No, yeah, no. I was his translator when he came to the U.S. back in 2009.
Okay.
He was a signee with the Seattle Mariners, and I went to his fall training camp and spent a whole bunch of time with him. So.
I didn't want people to not know why that's in your collection. There is a personal connection there. It's otherwise it's a very unique PC, I got to tell you.
Yeah, and his cards aren't too expensive, so it makes it easier to collect. So.
No offense to him, but I think that's very accurate, and you don't necessarily need Center Stage to figure that out.
Yeah.
Okay, so your goals as a collector for 2023. I know 2022, it has been probably a whirlwind for you. I don't know if you've even realized we hit 2023 yet, but are you going to be able to take a deep breath? Like you said, you're buying a little bit more. Do you have collecting goals? Do you want to go after certain players, expand into other sports? How are you looking at your personal collecting?
I think right now consolidation is kind of one key element, right? So I have all these boxes behind me that are like that have a whole bunch of slabs in them. I would like to trade up for a big card here and there. I've made a bunch of trades over the past few months and traded away like my only Zion autograph that I had. That was probably bad timing, but just want to focus on the key players that I love. Right. Go
John,
ahead.
your Zion card just pulled its hamstring. You're fine.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm a big fan of his though. So yeah, I still believe in him. I think it was gonna like I don't know, a freak injury, hopefully, but we'll see. Hamstrings are definitely something that recurs quite often, so we'll see. But yeah, I'm just consolidating. There are a few cards that I'm really hoping to get somehow through trade. But still today, like still buying wax every now and then. I'm like super
Yeah.
pumped to rip some hoops hobby. I'm glad the prices are a lot lower than they used to be, right? So
Are you gonna break that? Do you have like traditions when you break?
the
Or
tradition, yeah,
yeah.
the tradition is my wife rips every single pack and she reads everything out.
Yes.
Yep, yep. And
Yeah.
I'm the one that sleeves them and puts them in top loaders, and then yeah.
Okay. So does your wife have better luck than you? Because my wife pulls 10 to 1 on hits compared to me. I mean, I literally might as well just go buy the card I want because I don't have a shot. If she opens it, she'll hit everything in the box.
I think it's because she picks the boxes, my wife at least, when
Yeah.
we go to the shop. So she's definitely had better luck. I mean, I remember
Yeah.
when Luis Robert was the big chase in like 2020
Oh,
for
sure.
the White Sox. Pulled like 4 of his autographs, his Topps Chrome Blue Wave, Bazooka back, Gypsy Queen autograph, like that's numbered to 25. So she pulled everything pretty much. I don't remember pulling anything myself. So, but this
Okay.
is,
Well,
we're a team, right? So
all right. Well, we're gonna have to do a Zoom break, family Zoom break one night. We'll
yeah,
get
no,
the,
of course.
yeah,
Of course.
we'll get the same box, and you know
Yeah.
how much you know how much I like breaking packs for
A
no
pack. Well,
reason.
I remember at the National you brought some packs for us to rip right before the show started, right? So that was a lot of fun.
Well, anybody who knows me will is probably familiar with that story. I enjoy doing that when I meet people in the hobby because that's kind of what we're all here for. Um, so you're trying to consolidate the collection, which I'm hearing from a lot of collectors, by the way. I think a lot, my son loves the term pyramiding up with the collection. And I think that is the play right now. Is that what you guys are, hearing from other people in the hobby, or is that just kind of your personal goal? And if you don't mind sharing, what are some of your chase players or cards if you don't want to give specifics?
Yeah, I think in terms of feedback, I think one thing that we've learned through the app is that the usage has definitely not been exactly what we're expecting, right? Like I got into the middle to high end cards a little bit, but went back to the low end cards just because it was a little bit more affordable. Buying wax is definitely not conducive to a good return, right? So one thing about our app is that we want to make sure that we cater to the entire hobby, and I think one super encouraging thing has been the younger kids just using the app to price their $1 to $3 base cards and using that to trade with each other. That's what I did as a kid back when cards weren't worth that much. So I think in terms of our app, we just want to focus for everyone, right? And I think for me, the consolidation aspect is just kind of the management aspect of it, right? So we have all these vaulting services that I haven't really looked into. Maybe I'll look into ComST or something.
I was gonna say we can talk after the clock. I can give you 3 hours on vaulting services.
Yeah, exactly. But I think like some chase cards, like I was mentioning Zion autographs. I think my holy grail has always been the dual hoops art signature of Zion Williamson and Kobe Bryant on a single card.
Huh.
I was very close to trading for that a couple of times, but never pulled the trigger there. And yeah, just just general other Kobe Bryant autograph cards. It's something that I'm always I have my eye out for. So it's a fun
Okay.
journey.
Well, this is an economy right now where I know a lot of people have great cards that they're looking to trade away, or sell. You are on social media. What is your handle?
Oh, my handle is just my name. It's John Wee. I don't
So
do. Yeah.
yeah, I was
Go
about to
ahead.
say. So if you want to ask questions about Center Stage and don't want to go to their app, send John Wee a Kobe Bryant card, and he will reply to your DM. I believe that's is that
Yeah,
fair?
yeah, pretty much, pretty much. And yeah, I mainly focus on cards from 1998, 1999, for Kobe Bryant in particular. So, in particular, the ones where he's wearing a white sweatband. The long story here is that I gave him a set of sweatbands for his 20th birthday when I was with him, and I told him to wear it for good luck. But then he signed one and gave it back to me, so I have it actually right behind me here.
That's
And
cool.
any cards with him in that season, I always kind of hope that that's the one I gave him, right? So that brings me a lot of joy whenever I see it. So I think I have one Contenders Kobe autograph that's dated in early 1999, which would be 6 months after I met him. So
Very
it drives my passion in collecting, right? So
well. I think you know. I mean, not. I know that you're not keeping that to ever sell it, but the memorabilia and that personal connection that you just described, I think is the reason the memorabilia and ticket market is exploding at a faster rate than cards because there is that different connection.
mhm.
I understand people who collect autographs for that same reason. That there is a different connection, when you meet the person, and they sign it in front of you. So it's funny you say that, but I think that applies kind of to the hobby right now. Is your chase card is an autograph card. I think that a lot of people I know are collecting. I don't want to say random or niche, but they are collecting stuff that is more personal to them. And I just think that's super cool for the hobby is to not have to be dependent on joining expensive breaks looking for $1 million cards all day because that'll take a lot of fun out of the hobby pretty quickly. I still think it's just as much fun to sit down at a dollar box. When I have a set I'm putting together or a player I'm trying to chase. Maybe I shouldn't show it, but I collect the famous Bill Ripken error card and
Mhm.
all the different variations. Well, that's not a super expensive thing, but that's a lot of fun to look for. And so that's one thing that I want to get across to people is this technology is just to enhance your experience. This is not to replace your traditional experience. This is just another way to enhance it. And like I said, to me, it was like getting cable TV after having rabbit ears. It's just the next step, and it's not a matter of talking people into it. It's a matter of, whether it's Center Stage or Golden and PSA have a new marketplace. I mean, the hobby is changing. And if you want to be involved in the hobby, it's okay to try stuff out. And that being said, I apologize to the people listening on audio, but I do want to actually show some screenshots here of kind of the app itself. And you can see just first of all, the layout is very clean. But this is off your website, and you can see when you scan over a card, it's got the price and different listings and folders. So for people who have never actually seen that screen before, I definitely wanted to share that. Um, and I encourage you, if you are listening onto the podcast, to check out the iOS or Android store, and you can see it there before you download. Goals for the company in 2023. I know you said you want to build a community and a marketplace, and those are such sweet words. And we all want to hug each other and trade our cards at trade night and all that stuff. But let's talk from a macro view of the hobby. Uh, we are not in the pandemic boom anymore. So at this point, returning users, people that are comfortable with the app, spreading the word, would those kind of be the goals from a general standpoint at this right now?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, we have a goal of getting to 1 million users by the end of this year, which would be about 3 or 4x of where we are right now. So it's a very lofty goal. In terms of our new features coming out, we hope that users really find it helpful to be able to browse each other's collections and find cards. One thing about the screenshot that you just shared there was a part of a watch list, right? And in the future, what we really hope to bring to life is that if you have a card that's in your watch list that you're hoping to find, like the Hoopsart Zion Kobe dual autograph that I mentioned, if someone's able to scan that card that's in your friends group or outside of your network, you might get notified that card is has been saved by someone, and you can make an offer to that person, right? So we want to lift that sort of discovery into making it a more fun experience and something that's more scalable, right? So, I mean, there's that, but ultimately, I think partnerships is also one step that we want to take as well. So
Well,
we
that was going to be my next question, actually.
Mhm.
I know it's shifted since we first met. Uh, are you raw cards only, or can you scan graded cards or get graded card pricing? How does that work?
Well, so ultimately, we only scan the card itself at this point, right? So, our ultimate goal is to, once you scan a card, you'll just see a single entry and it'll be broken down by transactions for the PSA 10s, the PSA 9s, and just broken. We actually just enabled pricing for CSG and SGC as well.
I was about to say, because when I scanned this card, it gave me the option for pricing for some of the grading companies.
Yeah, so we just want one sort of comprehensive way. Just scan any card and have it broken down by any grading company and any grade ultimately. So that's our ultimate goal. But we're a ways off from that, and we have a lot of work ahead of us, right? So we're very close.
Well, it to me is the number one card pricing scanning tool in the market by far. I say that to your face before we work together, and I say it now. You have three-fifths of my family, I think, on your payroll unofficially, and so we're big fans. My only feedback is order more of the center stage shirts for us bigger guys. We still need some of those 2 and 3X for that extra love.
I
Um,
hear you. I hear you.
but as far as the app itself, congratulations, you guys are really onto something, and I'm excited to be even a little part connected with what you guys are doing.
No, for sure. No, love the support and really appreciate it for sure. And yeah, like you were telling your listeners, like if you have any feedback for the app, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. We want to hear it. We want to get better. And the app's not perfect by any means, and we just want to make sure that people find utility out of it, right? So, like you said, it's a tool, and we hope more and more people use it.
And you know what? You just gave me a great idea. I might do a whole podcast on proper ways to list on eBay, so we can get some sanity in this world of card collecting. Well, John, do me a favor. Thanks for coming on. Hang out in the green room for 30 seconds. I'm gonna move you into there. Appreciate you coming on. And for everybody else, as you know, I don't do an outro. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you next time. I'm Danny on the Sports Ball Podcast.